in this situation, the issue here is the DOJ's selective application of justice and its clear targeting of red states for passing laws that its duly elected representatives voted for. Earlier this year, the DOJ sued the state of Tennessee for a ban on child sex change procedures. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals rejected the suit, and now it's state law. The DOJ, Attorney General Garland in particular, has displayed a penchant for filing public lawsuits against red states for passing conservative policy through their democratically elected legislature. Why hasn't Merrick Garland hosted a press conference or announced a federal lawsuit into the state of New Mexico for arbitrarily suspending the constitutional rights of its citizens? I'll tell you why, it's no secret. It's because New Mexico's action serves the Biden administration's stated political goals. They'll put grandmothers behind bars for protesting abortion, but refuse to prosecute violent offenders who actually attack the pro-life pregnancy centers. They'll prosecute President Trump for allegedly mishandling classified documents, but they give President Biden a complete pass for even worse infractions. When we say that the DOJ has been weaponized, this is exactly what we're talking about, and this is what the American people see.
So this is where we enter the twilight zone. But it's a twilight zone, again, everything is a point of observation. A twilight zone to a mainstream journalist will be perfectly bloody logical to someone who's done 50 years or so, or 25 years, or how many years it is of research into something. This is an important point about perception. One of the greatest ways that humanity is controlled is by the suppression of the sense of the possible.
Alright, welcome to the show. You're watching Axiom series on the Wild Bill YouTube Network, WVYTN. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to WVYTN. Feel free to leave comments. And don't forget to share this content with your friends and family. And yes, today, on today's show, we're looking into mounds of evidence against the Biden family. And I'd like to point out that unlike most people that access newspapers and magazines, gossip and stuff like this, I personally like to watch CPAC and things like this from the Canadian House of Commons, from the House of Representatives, from judiciary committees in the United States, things like this. I like watching videos of those because I would rather get the information from the horse's mouth rather than a second or third party source. That's why you see a lot of my videos are from these committees and these sessions and stuff. It's not to say I don't use news articles and magazines and such like this on the internet and other sources, stuff like that, other YouTube channels, stuff like this. But I really like to go from the horse's mouth. And one source that I do use is the Forbes channel on YouTube a lot. Because I just find it interesting when I listen to people talking, having exchanges and stuff like this, and see the actual responses and body language, because like I said, I like getting it from the horse's mouth. And this particular video is quite interesting. It's from yesterday's session, as speakers spoke on the floor of the House on the mound of evidence against the Biden family. And so without further ado, as I always do, let's do this in parts. Let's go ahead and listen a little bit to what had to be said.
We'll see. Mr. Speaker, today the House Judiciary Committee, as I mentioned, asked Attorney General Garland about these questions and many more. 65% of the American people right now have no faith in the Department of Justice. It's because of his leadership. He has eroded the rule of law. He has destroyed public trust in an essential American institution. I used my time this morning. I was the first questioner on our side in the judiciary, and I asked the Attorney General about the DOJ's Hunter Biden investigation. This is a big question on the minds of my constituents and most of ours around the country. I asked him plainly. I said, quote, "Have you had personal contact with anyone at FBI headquarters about the Hunter Biden investigation?" You know what his answer was? He said, "I don't recollect the answer to that question." Really? Okay, so let me get this straight, I told him. The Attorney General of the United States cannot remember if he discussed an FBI investigation into the son of the sitting president of the United States? That's your testimony under oath? Yep, yes it is, he said. It's extraordinary. Mr. Speaker, frankly, we didn't expect full transparency today from this Attorney General. He and his top DOJ lieutenants have shown us, they've demonstrated over and over that they hold no regard for the rule of law and really are just acting as political hatchet men protecting their boss, President Biden. The Attorney General was clearly unwilling or unable to provide the essential answers that we needed today, and we will continue to press for them. That's our job. That's our constitutional duty on judiciary, to provide oversight over the DOJ. Mr. Speaker, we have...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank Congressman Johnson for his leadership. Mr. Johnson is focused. He is an individual who is bringing this whole body forward, and I look forward to working with him continually on these issues. You know, there's a saying, we all know it, the truth shall set you free. The accusations made against the Bidens more than require an investigation. These accusations have painted a picture of corruption, bribery, and shameful behavior unbecoming of our executive branch. Let's talk about them a little bit. Bank records obtained by the Oversight Committee reveal almost $20 million in payments directed to Biden's associates and family. These aren't Republican talking points. These aren't Jeff Van Drew talking points. This is the reality that we've already found. Over 150 transactions involving the Bidens have been flagged as, quote, suspicious activity. And that's not only by the banks, but also the Treasury Department. President Biden himself participated in phone calls with his son Hunter. It's a fact. Effectively acting as the merchandise that was being sold by his son Hunter, who was the salesman. And they closed deals, and we want to know what they're about. Calls that led to the funneling of millions of dollars to Hunter and other Biden family members and Hunter's associates. The list goes on and on and on. I'm only touching the surface. This is more than enough to garner the extra powers granted from an impeachment inquiry. Our goal is to get to the truth. As I said.
Oh, well, that's quite a start, man. I could believe it. I could believe over 60% of Americans are losing faith in the justice system. I could see how people are losing faith in that branch of government. I could see how people are losing faith in government, particularly liberal thinking government. Because I gotta say, up here in Canada, I have all but lost faith in liberal thinking, the liberal government, what they have done, and how they are destroying this country. But it has nothing to do with right or left. It has to do with right and wrong. And right now, what's going on is quite wrong with what's going on. When you think about the Biden family funneling $20 million of suspicious financial activity through Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, that is quite the sum of money to be kicking around for various things. And it seems like they have dealt in major corruption. Not just your ordinary, everyday corruption of what politicians engage in. I'm talking high crimes. You know, and for a democracy like the United States to be witnessing this and being unable to do anything because of the mindset not only of left-wing thinkers, but left-wing politicians and left-wing administrators in these institutions. Because lawmakers, law enforcement should not be allowing their political views to dictate their actions and how they do their job. And Attorney General Merrick really leaves something to be desired when it comes to the Department of Justice. You know. So let's go ahead and see what else has to be said here.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to yield next to my good friend, the gentleman from Utah, Super Bowl champion, Mr. Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my good friend from Louisiana. Today I rise in strong support of H.R. 684, the resolution condemning Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's unconstitutional actions violating New Mexicans' Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment is not an optional legal provision that bureaucrats can toss aside at their whim. It's a fundamental principle to ensure that every law-abiding citizen has God-granted rights to protect themselves, their families, their property, and their liberties. Growing up in the Deep South, I witnessed how black codes and Jim Crow laws unjustly restricted minority communities from owning firearms. In the mid-1950s, Martin Luther King Jr. kept firearms for self-protection, but his application for a concealed weapons permit was denied because of the racist gun control laws in his state. Gun control laws proposed by Democrats and state legislations, Congress and the White House aggressively erode our basic constitutional rights. As it was in the civil rights era, the black community has seen this movie before. As Democrats abridge our rights to self-protection, they legislate away the common sense tools for black Americans to protect themselves. As they push defund the police and soft on crime policies, it is the urban black community that suffers. We're now experiencing all-time highs in homicide, robberies, car thefts, physical assaults, and destruction of black-owned businesses. The House Republicans will never waver in our commitment to defending the rights of all law-abiding citizens, regardless of race, creed, color, or zip code. We will continue to fight to safeguard America's inalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It is an honor to lend my support to this House resolution, and I pledge to continue to champion the second right amendments to all Americans. Thank you, my friend, Representative Johnson, for bringing us together for this purpose. Thank you.
Well, there was an interesting viewpoint too about Second Amendment and guns and someone's rights to protect themselves. Because that man was right that all you have to do is turn on the news, turn on and take an honest look at what was going on. Crime has gone up so much because law-abiding people are not allowed to defend themselves. They're not allowed to protect their house. They're not allowed to protect their business. They're not allowed to protect their family. And the same thing is going on here in Canada. Although I have not seen businesses being burned down and all that kind of stuff, but I know crime is up. Violent crime is up on people. Random assaults are up. Robberies are up because people are not allowed to defend themselves and protect themselves and protect their business, protect their home, protect their family. And that is an inalienable right as a human being. It goes beyond man-made law. We're talking natural law here now. To be able to defend yourself. Because under liberal thinking and this soft on crime attitude and policies, well, the liberal thinking says blame the victim. You can't defend yourself. You can't protect yourself because you're going to be the one that's going to jail, not the one who's perpetrated the crime on you and trespass against your legal rights to personal security. And we have to remember that. Each and every one of us has a right to defend ourselves, to protect ourselves, to protect our families, protect our homes, protect our businesses, protect our vehicles, because if we're not going to be allowed to protect ourselves, besides the criminals, who's going to be next coming in to violate those rights on you? The government, the police, the army? This is a dangerous threshold that society is approaching here, and nobody is, I can't say nobody. You call them right wing all you want, but conservative thinkers, conservative thinking sees the importance of being able to protect oneself. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and see what else is said in this.
Investigators were not allowed to ask about the big guy. Bank records show over 170 suspicious activity reports filed by banks on the Biden family financial transactions. This means banks believe that over 170 separate financial transactions in Biden family bank accounts were linked to bribery, money laundering, or other serious financial crimes. An FBI informant documented conversations that indicated to them that Joe pressured foreign companies to send millions to the family business. The claims from Democrats and their media allies that the impeachment inquiry was opened without evidence are not only false, but also illogical. Inquiries exist for the purpose of uncovering evidence. An impeachment inquiry at its heart is an investigation to whether an impeachable offense has been committed. It's not the whole scope of impeachment. It gives the ability to do further investigation. Where there's smoke, you'll probably find fire. There's evidence from whistleblowers and former associates that Joe Biden was intimately involved in Hunter's corrupt business dealings. This is an impeachable offense. Allegations that since his conduct allegedly only happened when Joe was VP and not while president, thus mean that an impeachment is not possible. That is false.
Thank you very much. I rise today to discuss the Biden family business of selling out America. Here's just a sliver of what we know. The Biden family and associates received nearly $20 million in payments funneled through shell companies. They were paid by Russia, China, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and Lord knows who else. Joe Biden lied about his family receiving over $1 million in payments from China through an associate. Hunter put Joe on the phone at least 20 times in business meetings with foreign nationals. Hunter Biden's business associates visited the White House at least 80 times while Joe Biden was vice president. There were more than 150 bank transactions involving the Biden family that U.S. banks flagged as suspicious. Not only was Joe Biden involved with Hunter's clients and flying Hunter around the world on Air Force Two to generate more business, but it's also apparent that Joe was using his office as vice president to manipulate U.S. policy. We see that with Ukraine, Burisma, and the firing of the prosecutor. Unraveling the mountain of Biden's lies, his shell companies, and Joe's actions as vice president is part of what we're going to be going on in these hearings and the impeachment inquiry. If you're going to sell out America, this is what it looks like. I yield back.
Thank you.
Wow, that was quite the video to check out, man. And I gotta say, I don't know how. I just don't know how the United States isn't just moving to straight impeachment here because well, there is so much evidence to warrant an impeachment proceeding. Influence peddling, money laundering, lying to the American public, destroying the economy, destroying law enforcement, creating chaos within the United States. But it does make me wonder, considering that there are people talking about a coming war with Russia and China. Whether it's nuclear or not, it doesn't matter. I still do wonder if the application of treason laws against Joe Biden and his family can be executed, because there seems to me to be a war coming here, man, because of the actions of liberal thinking, democratic actions, the Democratic Party actions, I mean. Because there's war in the streets, there's chaos in the streets, there's so much that has been caused in the United States by liberal thinking, so much done in Canada because of liberal thinking. It totally betrays what people believe to be a democratic society is all about. Wow. And so I'm going to leave it with that. I got a few things to show here yet about concerning this video and what could be considered final thoughts. So with that, don't forget to like this video. Feel free to leave your comments. Subscribe to WVYTN. And don't forget to share this content with your friends and family. And remember, when it comes to Axiom series, there's always another side to the story. So don't be willing and ready to believe the first thing that you hear. Not even what I say. And with that, I will leave you with some final thoughts to consider. Bamapi. Be good.
And we will. And we're often asked, why is the House majority, why are the House Republicans spending so much time investigating? If we had not done these investigations, we wouldn't have all of this evidence. Why? It goes back to the theme of what I was saying earlier. Because the Department of Justice is simply not doing its job. Under normal circumstances, the DOJ would be investigating all these allegations of corruption, but they simply look the other way.
As I said in the beginning of this conversation, the truth shall set you free. If there's nothing for them to worry about, they should welcome an impeachment inquiry. They should welcome producing the records. They should be welcoming producing the statements. It's just the truth that we want. Our duty, we have a mission, a duty, and a responsibility. Our duty is to restore the American people's faith in our institutions. Our mission is to reaffirm that no one person, no one group is ever above the law in the United States of America. This inquiry will move forward with full transparency and steadfast resolve. If there's nothing here to hide, there's nothing here to worry about. But if the allegations are confirmed, there will be and needs to be justice. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, my friend. You're exactly right, and we had no choice but to proceed to the impeachment inquiry phase because that's where the evidence has led us, as you noted. And we have a responsibility. I mean, Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution says very clearly that a president shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors. We have credible allegations of a number of those infractions. Bribery is one of them, high crimes and misdemeanors, and we have mounds of evidence now stacking up to support those allegations. So we do not have a choice under the Constitution but to proceed accordingly. And that's what we'll do. We'll do our constitutional duty. Mr. Speaker? Thank you. That's well said. And if time permitted today, I'm sure we'd have every Republican in the conference come to the floor and speak to the same issue because it's so outrageous that you have this trampling upon some of our most fundamental freedoms, the Second Amendment, of course, being among them.
So, controlling the sense of the possible, because if you're doing things out here and you've got the sense of the possible here, then when people like me say this is what's going on, that goes, you're bloody mad, that's not possible, that can't be going on. And the biggest problem is that, and it's not every one of them, by the way. I was talking to one the other day who was very kind of intelligent, involved in all this, but this in general is my experience after 25 years of the perception of the possible of a mainstream bloody journalist. And that's why people who speak the greater truth and have done throughout the period of the media have invariably been ridiculed and dismissed, because that cannot perceive that the possibility that it can be true.